Hey everybody, welcome back to the Align Your Health podcast. We have an awesome show for you today. One of the things that we have really been thinking a lot about is the idea of when patients come into our office and the patients we are blessed to nurture and care for. When health is going great, it's easy street. It's all green lights, but there are times that we hit those red lights in our lives, and those red lights can be scary. They're not just a time to stop and reflect. Sometimes for people, they're actually filled with actual fear. And one of our goals in our practice and just in helping people and coaching them through their lives is that we encourage them. And the word encourage means to give courage, to take your courage and give it to somebody else. So I think that's our goal for today, is that how do we walk through life in a way that we can see it working on our behalf, we can see our health working on our behalf, and that we can give you the courage to approach the times when it may be a little scary or a lot scary, and approach them with the courage it's going to take to go through that and come out on the other side winning and victorious. So this comes to mind because I actually had this memory today. Somebody actually came into the office and asked me about the, I don't know if I'm even saying this right, the Hanta virus. And full disclosure, I don't watch the news. I have read about this and seen a little bit like on X or social or whatever, but I honestly would have to Google it right now to even tell you where this new, scare or fear is.
I really don't know anything either.
The other day we were walking through a store. No, it was the museum. We went to the museum the other day.
Art museum, yeah.
And at the art museum, I saw people wearing masks, and I'm like, what's going on? Is this the Hanta thing, or what's going on? Yeah. And then I've seen a couple of people that, I follow make some posts of like, hey, we're not doing this again. And I'm like, is there something I don't know? Yeah. And it's by choice. And it really got me to the place of, I remember going through the time that shall not be mentioned a few years ago. And I remember when, the initial scare kind of hit, and just calming my staff down and saying, hey guys, I want to walk you through something. I want to share with you something I've been noticing over the last couple of years. And you'll remember this. I think it was like circa 2000, and I want to call it like 2009 maybe. Okay. 2010, right around that time.
We were just a year or two into marital bliss.
We were.
The birds were chirping. The sun was shining.
It's true.
The clouds were blue.
It's true. And it was 2009, 2010. I can tell by the date of, what I'll talk about. But this was before I had changed a lot of eating habits. I had graduated from college. I'd been practicing chiropractic for about 2 years. And listening to our show, you guys know that I grew up, not with like a totally holistic background. We were a pretty normal family until about age 8. That's when we started under chiropractic care. Chiropractic care led us to, eating differently. And even then we weren't like a full organic family, but we stayed away from processed foods. We did not, we didn't do a lot of traditional things like, pop, soda, whatever we call it, just north of the Mason-Dixon line. In Michigan, it was pop. And I know you grew up in a family, like you told me stories of when you were young, every morning eating 10 almonds and drinking carrot juice.
Yeah, my dad juiced carrots every single day of my entire life. He juiced carrots, and I ate 10 almonds, and I drank carrot juice.
And I remember thinking, wow, that's such a cool start, because we didn't have that initially.
He still has that same juicer, by the way. Yeah. He has had that same juicer for...
Yeah, like a Jack LaLanne juicer or whatever it is.
It's an Acme brand juicer. He's literally had it for almost... He got it in college.
Yep.
They're almost 80.
You and I both grew up in a church where people milled their own grain, which now is cool. Like now you're making sourdough and people are like, where do you mill your own grain?
Chocolate, really, they ate carob.
Carob, carob chips. I actually remember as a kid going and getting frozen yogurt and eating carob chips. Yeah. So I say all this to say, like, it was a for lack of a better term, it was an evolution or an adaptation that we kind of grew into healthier lifestyles. But in 2009, I was still one of my favorite things in the world. Still today, I don't do it anymore, but I would love to. Was going to a bagel shop. and getting a bagel. And the proper way to eat a bagel, just so you guys know, is you toast it and then you put a healthy amount of butter on first, and then you put sour cream.
Is that a debate? Like, do people debate that?
Well, it's decided. I've already decided that's how you do it. Now, whether you put on plain cream cheese or whether you go garden or what, that's up to you. But
how else would you do it? I don't even understand.
Well, some people skip the butter.
Oh, okay.
Some people don't like cream cheese.
Yeah, no.
If you're really weird, you don't toast it.
Yeah,
you got to toast it.
Yeah.
So I remember I was at a bagel shop and, put in my order. I can't remember if it was, locally like Skip's Bagel Deli or if it was, Einstein's or whatever, but I was at a bagel shop and I was in the bathroom and I was washing my hands because you're about to eat a bagel with your hands. And, I'd been running all over town that morning, and I remember washing my hands and I turned to the, whether it was the air dryer or the paper towel dispenser. And right there was this poster and it said, the next one is coming. And I'm like, what is that? Is this like, Christian propaganda, like the return of Christ, or like, what are they warning me about? And then it at the very bottom talked about the flu pandemics, and it had them listed out of like the flu pandemic of, I think it was 1918, the huge one that swept across America. And it literally said like 1918. And then
I'm imagining like a medieval times poster where they're like, it's going to happen again. And they're like talking about the Crusades or like, you know what I'm saying? Like something that's like, what are we talking about? This is like 100 years ago.
The bubonic plague. The plague's coming back. Yeah. The next one was like 1979, I believe it was, which was
a little closer.
Yeah. So like, and then it was, there might've been one more, but then there was a one that said 20 ? And the whole poster was the next one is coming.
Like the next flu pandemic.
The next flu pandemic. And I remember looking like, who's putting this out? And in the corner, in the bottom, was the logo of the World Health Organization. At that time, that was not a name that you heard frequently.
Haven't been marked.
It wasn't all over the news. It wasn't.
Yeah.
It was, I knew of the World Health Organization because of their rankings of the healthiest, versus sickest countries in the world,
which we
talked about a lot.
The United States
ranks very poorly when it comes to the health of the American public versus the health of other industrialized nations. Mm-hmm. So when I saw World Health Organization, I'm like, is this really a thing? We're spending money on this. We're educating the public that something in the future is coming. And for me, the flu was growing up, you got the flu. And
which is this is just such an odd thing because, imagine walking to a bathroom and seeing a poster like, reasons to be scared of spiders. Or like, have you ever thought about being afraid of snakes? Like snakes could be coming. You could get on an airplane and
hippopotamuses, kill lots of people. It's like the next hippopotamus attack is coming.
Why would we be preempting that like something bad is coming down the pipe and you just need to get really nervous about it? That's so odd.
I would rather like them let me know when the next road construction on I-75 was going to happen. Mosquitoes. I just looked this up the other day. Mosquitoes kill more people than any other living thing on the planet.
What?
But we get bit by mosquitoes and we're just like, whatever.
Yeah.
You put out a little light to attract them and zap them or whatever. But we're not walking around in a state of fear. But apparently the World Health Organization at this time wanted to prepare us that there might be something coming.
Wow, that's so weird that they knew that.
This was early 2009. And then what happens, lo and behold, 2009-10, almost as if they knew something was going to happen, swine flu. And I remember because I was mentally like already like, all right, what's going on? I remember putting out a post and it was a picture. This was before AI. I actually had to find this picture. I don't know who created the picture, but it was a picture of Kermit the Frog, like laying dead. And I wrote this whole thing about the swine flu because Miss Piggy, right? Swine. Oh. And wrote this whole thing on here's what to do. Like we don't want to just approach every single thing out of a place of fear, but like what do we know about our health and how we create health so strong that the flu doesn't have an opportunity to manifest or to take over and hijack our physiology. Yeah. And so that article talked about vitamin D and came from the Lancet, which is one of the most respected medical journals, and why vitamin D is so effective, and that vitamin D doesn't kill the flu, but we become deficient in vitamin D due to a lack of sunlight, and vitamin D is manufactured in the presence of us being in direct exposure to the sun. And when vitamin D levels are high, that people don't get sick as often. And this is like documented medical research. And then, the next one was like, making sure that like stress, and how can you combat stress, and getting adjusted. And the research that showed that when people were getting adjusted, their immune systems were functioning on average 200 to 400% higher, because subluxations were taking away their health potential. Yep. So when you get adjusted, we're not adding to your health, we're restoring God-given function. And so I wrote this paper and was giving it out, to patients. And at that time, not every single person was coming through the door like, are you worried about the swine flu? In fact, most people weren't. We were just getting ahead of it. Yeah. And then, fast forward, then there was, I have a list of them here, but I remember Zika and measles, and we had SARS. You remember SARS?
Was that the one where they got in suits?
That was Ebola, and that was a movie. In fact, literally just the other day, I heard that there was a small outbreak of Ebola in like middle America, and that 19 people were detained because of a Ebola outbreak, and it was on the news again. Oh, wow. And so like there was just these, and if you guys remember, in West African, the West Nile virus. West Nile virus, yeah. Zika virus, and you can just go down the line. And so when we got to the time that shall not be mentioned by name, I remember sitting down with my staff and saying, hey, viruses operate a certain way, and our health operates a certain way. And there are things that support health, and there are things that destroy health. And I was trying to encourage my staff. So getting back to that idea of encouragement, I was trying to say, hey, from what I've witnessed, from the things I've seen, taking care of patients and watching people go through things, we used to have a phrase. People would say, it's flu season. And I would say, not in this body.
No,
not in this body. Like my body doesn't operate on seasons when it comes to flu.
Right.
We are going into winter. Weather's about to get inclement. People are eating terribly from Halloween through Thanksgiving, Christmas, into, Valentine's Day. There's more parties, there's more drinking, there's more, poor food choices, less sunlight. So is there a season of stress on our bodies? Absolutely. Most of it's self-chosen, but we don't believe in flu season.
Right. And I think there's a couple, with what you're saying, it's really interesting. And there's a couple things that come to mind with this, and two parts of it. And one of them is that specifically what you're talking about, I think is very appropriate, because it was so widespread and affected every single person. Yeah. But fear in itself, like inherent fear of something going wrong in your health, whether it's because of, a disease epidemic, or whether it's because of a diagnosis. Like not every single person on
or whether you think it's because of your family history.
Right. Which is a huge one too. Yeah. We've been sold a whole story about genetics and what it's going to do to us no matter what. And which, like we can talk about the merits of that all day long. But what's interesting is that not every single person on earth has been diagnosed with cancer or heart disease, or, has some other condition that's been diagnosed with. But the idea of it is still, whether it's ever happened to you, or happened to a family member, or hasn't happened to you, but there's sort of like this idea that it could happen to you. Like maybe there's just a health anxiety in general. I've met some people in my life that have had really severe health anxiety. And even if you don't have severe health anxiety, there's some things that are, reasonable that you might get nervous about, right? And those things are applicable, whether it's, outbreak style, or whether it's diagnosis. All of those streams kind of run into the same river of just having fear over your health. And so I think what you're going to teach is something that really changed my life in general. as a whole. It changed my life as a whole because I always thought, and I've used this phrase so many times, but I always thought disease was a lightning bolt. And I always thought that it was just one of those things that I was trying to be in the right place at the right time and never get zapped by it. Yeah. And I always just thought that it was when it happened and unfortunately just lightning bolted the person, and we would pray for them and feel horrible for them. And unfortunately that was just kind of their lot in life. Yep. And I never realized that there was a whole ingredient list that goes into disease. Yeah. And some of it are things that we can control, and then some of them feel outside of our control. But I think when you really break down fear, health fear in general, I think that they're usually like, especially with disease outbreak, sort of that conversation, there's really three main things that come into play as to why you get scared. And one of them is that it's invisible. And this also could feel diagnosis, like it also could be why you would get scared in that instance, is that the threat feels invisible. It feels like it's not tangible.
It's like fighting a ghost.
Yes, it's like fighting a ghost, and you can't even, like, it's like slipping through your fingers. And like I'm imagining some of those scenes on, like, I don't know if it's Ghostbusters or if it's like some of those movies where like somebody's fighting somebody who's a ghost, and it's like they're just slipping through, and you never have your hands on it, and you can never catch them, and it's something that's, you're never going to win in that scenario. And so there's a real terror that comes along with that because that's how you view it. And then there's this also, the second thing is just really feeling powerless. And in general, feeling powerless leads to a lot of things. But really that deep anxiety and that deep fear that gets rooted in you from feeling powerless really makes you feel like, well, there's just nothing I can do. Right. And there's no hope for it. And so when you feel powerless, you start grabbing onto the things that you think you could do, which is how we ended up with these silly, like, umbrella things off of our heads in grocery, we didn't, but in grocery stores, right? How people ended up with these like really like elaborate masks on or non-elaborate masks on, or how people ended up with these 6 feet apart, signs
dots on
the floor and like things like that, were instituted for a period of time. And it's how people ended up doing these crazy things. Because when you feel powerless, you're reaching for the things that you're like, okay, well, I guess this is what I can do.
Yeah. Something that has any semblance of certainty to it.
Right. Something that has certainty to it. And
that's how they were able to establish 6 feet, not 7, not 5.5, but 6, because there was certainty to it.
Right. Why is that? And we'll talk about some things that sort of go, that fulfill these needs in different ways, right? And there's obviously way better ways to fulfill that need of feeling powerless and to really flip that on its head 180 degrees and say, okay, how do you feel powerful in this scenario? But when you feel powerless, you just really feel like it's out of control and you're just terrified. And then the last thing is that when you're overloaded with worst case scenario information, that is for even in a diagnosis, when you're given those diagnoses. I mean, we had a dear friend of ours that was diagnosed with stage 4 brain cancer, and he shut the doctors down for what they were speaking over him.
You're not allowed to speak that into me.
You are not allowed. You do not dictate when I live. You do not dictate when I die. It is not in your control. You do not get to say that to me. And that was a crucial step in his recovery, because he had to just shut it down. Like when you were being overloaded with worst case scenario information, like a lot of us were in the time that won't be mentioned, when all you could do was stare at your phone because you were locked in your house, and you're just seeing
tune in every night to hear
about how horrible it is and how many people died and all these things, and all of these things that you don't even know if they're true or not or what's happening. When you're overloaded with those worst case scenario information, all you can do is have fear deeply rooted inside of you. And we know that having fear deeply rooted inside of us it doesn't work in any diagnosis and any condition. I don't even care if you have a broken arm. Fear doesn't serve healing. Right. I don't care if you have laryngitis. Fear doesn't help with the healing process. And whatever.
Because it determines the decisions you make, and the decisions you make have an impact on the outcome. And so most of the time, we don't make good decisions in a fear-based scenario. We don't make logical decisions in a fear-based scenario. So I think, those are 3 great points. I think we start off with number 1. Where does that? So there's research that's been done that shows when somebody does get a diagnosis, how the doctor speaks to it. If the doctor actually tells the patient it's survivable, that there's great outcomes, it's going to go well, you're going to fight this, versus if they say, hey, this is terrible, and they use scare tactics, that it actually has a tremendous outcome on how the patient responds or patients respond, and that there's a significantly higher association, whether it's terminal or non-terminal. If somebody had some, in fact, there's actual stories and research that are done on if you tell someone the symptomology of the condition, and they're wrongly diagnosed, that they will actually exhibit the symptoms of the thing that you wrongly diagnosed them with because it was brought to their mind, and their mind is creating it. So number one, and
remember that you did a talk years ago where remember the gentleman who died in the freezer?
Yeah. So that was the nocebo effect. It was a guy that was locked in a freezer, like a commercial grade freezer. And he was locked in it, and he went through all the stages of hypothermia. This is documented. This is a crazy story, but he went through physiologically all the stages of hypothermia and died of hypothermia. He died from the physiological effects of cold temperature. But when they found him, they realized that the freezer was never actually on, and it wasn't even plugged in, and that because he was locked into it and he had the knowledge of what would happen because he was locked in a freezer, his body brought him through all the physiological stages of hypothermia based on the belief that it was cold and not the fact that it was actually cold. So it goes to show you how powerful our minds are. So I think that's a great place.
And there's been folks that have been diagnosed with cancer.
Wrongly
diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, that they never had cancer, but they actually ended up dying from all of the effects and symptoms of a cancer diagnosis, and they actually never had the cancer in the first place. And their body shut down and went through what seemed like a cancer death.
Right.
So I think number one is, what do we give our minds to? And we believe that we were created in the image of the Creator, and that we have the power to create outcomes. We don't have the power necessarily to change every single aspect of our life. I'm not going to name it and claim it. I'm rich, I'm wealthy, I'm this, and money just falls out of the sky. We're not talking about that. We're talking about that your brain's powerful and your body's powerful, and your body has the ability to manifest what you choose to think about. And so that's the image we're created in. But then there's this other thing, this fear, and we know that fear comes from the enemy, that God doesn't. The only thing that we're talking about this, that biblically, one of the only things that you're told to fear is the fear of the Lord. Yeah. And the fear of the Lord doesn't mean to be scared of God. It means to be scared of living outside of the belief and presence of God.
Yeah.
Outside of that, the Bible 365 times says, fear not.
Yeah.
And it's funny that it's that number because it's one for every day on our calendar, that we need to be reminded, fear not, that fear has no place in us from God. That we're wired. I mean, if a bear jumped in the room, we got to make critical decisions. There is a healthy amount of fear that creates a physiological response, but we don't thrive in that environment. No. That we thrive in an environment of hope, and we thrive in an environment of belief. So the first thing is to go, who is this message coming from?
Yeah.
Is it coming from God? Does it go in the face of what I believe? Do I believe I'm fearfully and wonderfully made? Do I believe that a virus from a tick or a bat or a worm or a polar bear, I don't care where it comes from. Do we believe that a virus is going to take out the crowning glory of God's creation, which is a human being? Like, is a virus more powerful than a human? And we've gone through this research with you guys before, that you are more viruses than you are cells. Yeah. That you have, if viruses win, you have most of them. Yeah. Like, you would win because you have viruses in your body all the time. There's stuff everywhere. There's germs. We call them germs. Germs, not even technically a real thing. We're talking about bacteria. We're talking about pathogens. We're talking about viruses. Germ is it's like what you tell your kid, why they shouldn't eat their boogers type of thing. That there's gross. Bugs, right? They're little bugs.
Yeah.
But we're meant to live in the world alongside of pathogens. Yeah. And we look at them as being bad because we don't fully understand how they might actually support life. Yeah. And they might actually give us something to constantly be fighting to keep our immune system strong and primed. So number one is, where is the information coming from? Is it coming from people who are medically minded, who think that the world is an outside-in approach to health? Or is it coming from people who have a faith-based background where they believe inside out that you are powerful and that you can overcome, that you're more than a conqueror, and that your body is designed to heal and be healthy? Like King David said, I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So that's number one, and I think that was the first step when I started to hear, or right now, hearing Ebola on the news the other day, hantavirus this, ticks. I'm hearing stuff about ticks right now. So when you hear this stuff, it's like, am I gonna subscribe to the fear-based model, or am I gonna go, okay, number one, who do I believe? Number two, now what do I do? What do I do with that information? We know that human beings were different than every other creation, that we have the brain and the prefrontal cortex to help us and guide us and steer us in the direction of making good choices. But also we're part of the animal kingdom. And if you look around at animals, they don't walk around living in fear of getting bit by a fly or whatever. They just live life. And what do? They do what's natural. And so I think this is the other part. Part of the definition of chiropractic is a philosophy, science, and art of things natural. And so anytime you're talking to a chiropractor who's a principally based chiropractor, they should steer you back towards nature. I talk about this a lot when it comes to childbirth. Childbirth is a natural thing. It's not a medical phenomenon. It's not a surgical, case. That animals give birth in the woods. Yeah. And then they go back to being animals. Yeah. And it's so natural, and we've turned it into this medical thing, and only human beings do it. Right.
And we've turned it into the medical thing because of fear.
Yeah, out of fear. Yeah. Baby's too big. I can't tell you how many times.
Your pelvis is too small. The baby's too big. It's not coming right. You're not doing it in
As
time.
if the creator didn't understand how the creation works.
Right.
Yeah, your pelvis might be smaller, and that baby naturally wouldn't come out of there, except for God created hormones that relax your ligaments. Your pelvic bones actually expand and separate so that a 9.5-pound baby can fit through a smaller pelvis, because it's actually part of the miracle and the beauty of God's design is that there are hormones that you secrete. So when they look at the baby, they go 9.5 pounds, its head measures this, your pelvic outlet's only this. We forget that you're going to start secreting hormones to allow ligaments to relax and the pelvis opens up. Yeah. And that there are things that you can do to help relax the tissue and the skin to go along with that. So that's just one example. A mother before giving birth isn't producing milk. So it would be easy to say, I'm going to have a baby and I don't have milk. Right. Well, your body has a whole cascade of things that happen because of the birth process. And next thing you know, milk comes in. When does it come in? When it's supposed to. Right. And then the next question is, are there things that we do that maybe interfere with natural processes? Yeah. So number one, who's the information coming from? Number two, what should we be doing? And we try to narrow it down to 5 key areas. We call them the 5 essentials. We should be eating a certain way. We should be moving certain ways. We believe that chiropractic care is one of the most just simple and elegant solutions towards healthcare, that your nervous system keeps the score. Your nervous system is key in making sure that you are healthy and survive through anything. So when people are like, I'm worried I might get sick or whatever, I'm like, when was your last adjustment? Mm-hmm. When is your next adjustment? Those are the 2 most important questions. Mm-hmm. When was your last one? When is your next one? Yep. If you really want to have steps for staying healthy, number one, establishing that mindset. Number two, make sure you're eating properly and exercising regularly. Yeah. Exercise is key for keeping strong physiology. Let's just keep it there, that you want to be strong. Muscle is a huge advantage. Fat isn't. Sweat is good, getting your body temperature and your heart rate and your breathing up. Everything about regular exercise supports healthy physiology. Then putting the right food in. And the right food has to be food. It should have next to 0 ingredients. When you buy an apple, there's not ingredients. It's an apple. Now, does it have fiber? Does it have natural sugar in it? Sure, it does, but it was created by God. We can't even analyze apple by apple to know exactly what's in that apple unless we broke it apart and broke it down. So if your food has lots of ingredients, if you're buying packaged stuff, that's not supporting health. It can be organic. Right. You could be buying organic packaged food. Yeah. There's organic chips. Yeah. There's organic cookies. There's organic. All organic means is they've used less chemicals. It doesn't mean it's health food. Right. And so eating real food. And then the next one, chiropractic. And chiropractic is so key. Again, we talk about all the benefits of getting adjusted and making sure your body is able to adapt to whatever you come up against. And a big part of that is then your immune system. So we also believe in avoiding toxins and potentially supporting our body with the right things. So vitamin D, vitamin C, things that are lacking in our nutrition, things like magnesium. Are you supporting that? One of the things that I would encourage you, so number one, when was your last adjustment? And when is your next adjustment? Yeah. And then I would also, I ask patients all the time, they're like, hey, Dr. Ryan, I just got diagnosed with breast cancer. I just got diagnosed with early stage prostate cancer. And so when was your last adjustment? When's your next adjustment?
Right.
What rhythm do we need to get back into? Based on things like x-ray. And then number one, right away, especially if it's immune related, I always ask people, what's your vitamin D level?
Yeah.
Vitamin D is so protective of the body that we're in offices and we're under artificial light and we're not outside. We have clothing on most of the time and we wear sunglasses. Light comes in through our eyes and it helps stimulate vitamin D production. And so what is your vitamin D level? Your vitamin D level should be up in the higher than 60 nanograms per deciliter, ideally in the 80s, even up as high as maybe 100, depending on the person. But your vitamin D levels matter. And so, we go in and we get so many things checked, and that's something that a basic thing is, what do your x-rays look like? What is your vitamin D level? Like, those are huge ones for when it comes to, going through any health complication. Now, that's simplifying it. Are there other things and other metrics? Can we look under the hood and see that there are other things that have gone wrong? Sure. But they're all dependent on our lifestyle. They're not dependent on some weird thing out there that's coming to grab you.
Yeah.
It's your susceptibility. And so this is where the confidence comes from. And I think that, those basic steps really help people to move in the right direction. And again, I used vitamin D as an example, not as the tell-all. Yeah. It is a great example when it comes to disease, because it's probably the one vitamin, and it's also a hormone that everyone is typically deficient in, that has the largest impact on healing and recovery. And so that's one that we look at, but there's lots of them. And so the biggest thing is going back and going, okay, what can I do? Because that's empowering. And then I think the last thing, so number one, who's your information coming from? Number two, what are the things that you're doing or not doing that have an impact or control over your health? And then number three, what is your outlook on it? And your outlook is, if you have the mindset of, I'm going to get through this, I'm going to overcome this. I don't care if it's a health diagnosis. I don't care if it's a financial burden. I don't care if it's a marital struggle. If you go through a marital struggle and the first thing is you go to a counselor and they're like, yeah, this doesn't look good, like, that's not going to be healthy. If your mindset isn't, we're going to get through this, I just need coaching on how to do it well, because in the end, we're still married, and in coming to agreement, not just with your spouse, but even with yourself, your chances of staying married are significantly higher if you're going in. I think some people go into those situations and they go, I don't know, I guess we'll see how it works out. Oh, God bless it. And like, that is a recipe for disaster. Mm-hmm. So in your health, like, what does that look like in your health?
Right. And I think one of the best things that chiropractic, that the philosophy behind chiropractic ever did was empower me to not feel powerless anymore in my health. Yeah. And it makes you unsusceptible, really, to all of the ups and downs and the emotional highs and lows of anything that could be potentially scary with health outcomes. Like, if you had somebody who came right now and, dear family member came and said, hey, I got X, Y, and Z diagnosis, it's not that you never, like, that intrinsic, overwhelming, almost debilitating wave of fear doesn't come, because really you just start thinking about it almost mathematically. Like, okay, so if all of this addition got here, then how do we subtract to get back there out of the state of disease? And that's essentially what we're looking at. And so, and then in a scenario where it's not a diagnosis scenario, in a scenario where it's like, oh, we're talking about, everybody needs to be terrified because the next wave of whatever is coming. You're really just not susceptible to that fear mongering anymore, because you understand what the processes in your body are doing, and you understand the things that you need to do to make sure that you are excellent. I mean, I can tell you right now, they were having, I remember in the time that will not be mentioned, they were having donut trucks come through our neighborhood, on a daily basis and doing all these donut things. And we're like,
food trucks, donut trucks.
Yes, with horrible food. And I was like, if you want to tank your immune system, like, my gosh, stay inside your house, don't get any vitamin D, and then go and eat just donuts, mounds of sugar. Like, you're not going to feel well. Or sit in your house.
And then all of a sudden somebody's like, oh, I got the thing. It's like, well, no, You ate a box of donuts yesterday.
Yes. And so those things, the math adds up on it. And so that powerful feeling of just knowing, hey, I know what I need to be doing now.
Well, we see that in the medical field very frequently, that somebody will go to the hospital, right? Mm-hmm. And they'll get bad news, and they're going to, whether they're getting treated, operated on, intravenous drugs or whatever, low light, artificial light, in a room with a terrible view, with machines beeping all the time, poor sleep, terrible food, getting sugar-free Jell-O and being, offered Diet Coke or even just as bad, Tropicana, juice from concentrate, and then just hope. Where does hope in that situation, right? You're waiting on the person to come in to tell you whether you're going to be okay or not. You haven't decided whether you're going to be okay or not. So it's very disempowering, and that's what we call healthcare. So no wonder people feel that. I remember there was an old Jim Gaffigan, comedy act where he was talking about, giving birth in a hospital and like, do you want to have a baby in a robe that somebody died in yesterday? And you know what I mean? It was like the whole idea of like going to a place to bring life in a place where people lose life. And so I think that's the mentality, is when you get into a situation, it's seeing the future where you're on the other side of it. You got to see yourself on the other side. And I think that's really, I don't want to say it's the last step. It's kind of the first step is, where does your information come from? And have you decided you're going to be okay? And then after that is, you don't come with an instruction manual outside of the Bible. You don't come with an instruction manual. So there are people who can coach you. So you can go to the sick care coaches and they can coach you on sick care and symptom management, or you can go to people who understand health and have seen people survive. That was one of the things you mentioned, Chuck, and cancer. He said, I want to hear survivor stories. Mm-hmm. I want to hear about the people who got well. I want to know what they did. I want to know, what things did they do? What treatments did they avoid? What treatments did they go after? What lifestyle changes did they make? What was their mindset like? Looking at stories of survivors. When you look at people around you, if there's a pandemic, right? Mm-hmm. Look at the people who aren't scared, the people who are healthy, the people who aren't wearing masks. Like, what are they doing? What are they thinking? Because I think so often, like during that time, the story was, oh, they're just being negligent. And that usually wasn't the case. It was actually that they had a different understanding. They had a different thought basis. And I talk to people all the time. They're like, yeah, I never wore a mask. I never got it. Or I got it. It was pretty easy. And, and if that wasn't your story, if you lost a family member, I know that can be hard to hear, but the reality was that so often that it was this whole idea of that people were just being negligent. Like, we don't like to use pharmaceutical care, not out of negligence, because we do so many other things to support health. Like when we had babies at home, it wasn't like we're just lazy. You know what I mean? No, we had prepared ourselves. Like, you had gone to birthing classes. You had
That's part of the Jim Gaffigan's routine that he's like, we just want to put on shoes.
We had met with midwives and doulas, and we had gotten birth coaching, and we were reading before the baby was born on what that baby should be eating in the first couple months of life, into the next year of life. You were reading a book about how to feed that baby for the next year to two before we even had the baby. Like, there was massive preparation that went into it so that we weren't caught off guard. And so when something does come up and you are unprepared, that's where the fear comes from, is you're unprepared. What you need to do is find someone who's done the preparation. And I think that was the whole, propaganda thing. Going back to that poster, they were preparing people for the idea that something's coming and you need to be ready, but be ready by doing what? They offered no suggestions. It was by the hand washing station, so I'm assuming they were telling you to wash your hands.
Right.
But like that wasn't it.
Right.
So we went immediately to, all right, they're trying to prepare mindsets for something. How do we prepare our patients? Wrote an article on getting adjusted more, vitamin D, get outside, work on your nutrition right now and be prepared. So, I think that's the thing when patients come into our office and, it could be back pain. It could be, something more serious, but my whole thing is, hey, you're made to heal. Mm-hmm. Because you're here, it shows that you're searching out a pathway. And what I need to know is, can you see yourself healing from this? Can you see yourself on the other side of it? And then here are the things that I know based on experience that'll take you from point A to point B, but you have to do them, and you're going to do them so much more and with so much more intent and so much better if you see it getting you there. I had a lady just yesterday, and she said, do you think you can help me? And I said, absolutely. I believe you're designed to heal. I believe this is a chiropractic situation. My question is, do you believe that I can help you? Because it's help. You're going to have to do it. You're going to have to make the appointments. You're going to have to show up. You're going to have to do the home care. And if you can see that, then you're probably going to see the outcome because you believe it and you'll do it. Mm-hmm. And so my belief in it, again, getting back to encouragement, our goal is to give people the courage to go through the thing in their health. And here's the good news. You're going to have a life of opportunities because we're all going to have, you're going to have sniffles. You're going to maybe get the flu. You could eat bad food. Are you going to recover from somebody else not washing their hands and touching your food? Right. Absolutely you will. Is it going to be uncomfortable? 100%. Right. Are you going to survive it? You have to decide that because you can make steps to go in either direction. If it's a diagnosis, do people survive heart disease? All the time. Do people survive cancer? All the time. Do people survive, viruses? I got bit by a brown recluse spider. I remember looking down at a hole in my leg and thinking, in the moment, it was brutal. And I remember thinking, is this going to get better? It's it's not going to stay like that.
Right.
It's either going to get better or get worse, and I get to decide which way that's going to go based on how I go about this. Mm-hmm. And the beautiful thing is, I don't have a hole in my leg anymore. And I don't have spider venom coursing through my vein. That would be kind of, especially if it was like Spider-Man.
Our kids would be impressed.
Yeah, they would be. I'd be way cooler than I am currently. But you have to make that decision. And like I said, the good news is we're going to have a lifetime of opportunities to go through that because we are designed to go through things that's part of what this existence and part of health is. Health isn't just being, and I think that, I had a couple mentors who were kind of larger than life in some ways, and they were everything was we never get sick. Our kids never get sick because of chiropractic. We only eat well, not in this body, muscles coming out their ears. And there's a part of that is attractive, or else we wouldn't look to the heroes of Olympus or, what I mean? We want to see these icons that are kind of larger in life, but it wasn't true. There was little vulnerability to that. Do our kids, have they ever gotten sick? Sure. I'll tell you this, our kids have never suffered from ear infections. I did as a kid. I suffered from ear infections. I was on antibiotics all the time, suffered from ear infections. Chiropractic and changing the course of how we did things, changed that, and I never had an ear infection again. Have my kids ever had ear infections? Yeah, they've actually come to us and said, my ears hurt. And then within a day, their ears didn't hurt anymore. They didn't have these ear infections that were going on for days and weeks and months. They had something, probably from swimming, had a little bacteria that started to build up in their ear. And we went, A, get adjusted. B, avoid any source of sugar right now. Mm-hmm. C, let's get some sleep. D, where are your vitamin D levels? Let's get your vitamin D up. And then we may have used, in an instance like that, something external like ear oil, which is essentially olive oil with an ingredient from garlic in it, and treated things very naturally. And the next day they're great. And so it's not to say we'll never go through things or your kids will never go through things. It's to say that how we go through them has a tremendous impact on our health.
Absolutely.
So hopefully that helps you guys. Our goal is to be encouragers. If you're looking for somebody to come alongside of you, stand shoulder to shoulder in your health, and to direct you in the right ways, we love to be that office. alignhealthcenter.com is our website. There's a scheduling app right on there. You can actually book a new patient appointment simply by clicking on that, and you'll get your new patient paperwork and all that stuff, and we will work on getting you in. I hear all the time, are you guys taking new patients? We're always taking new patients because people are always looking to get healthier, and we want to continue to grow this practice on the health of the people that we get to serve. If you're not in our area, but you're looking for someone to help you like this, good news. We know lots of chiropractors. We know lots of other doctors that do this type of work. So reach out to us. You can get us at info@alignhealthcenter.com. Shoot us an email. Tell us you watch the podcast and you're looking for a great doctor in your area. We'll help you find one. So until next time, this is the Align Your Health podcast.